So alternatively certified in K through 6, but you don't see me teaching in K through 6. It was a backup plan.
Okay, so some of our buzzwords or objectives for today are to identify 2 technologies that reinforce Braille literacy. You are going to be able to discuss 3 benefits of incorporating BrailleBuzz into direct Braille instruction within the classroom and at home, whether that be it with the actual BrailleBuzz or with the new app. And you're also going to be able to name 2 apps used with refreshable Braille displays that reinforce Braille literacy skills. Those are the goals. So we get asked this question quite a bit. Isn't Braille going away with all the technology out there now? All the auditory, all the speech to text, things like that? And the answer is absolutely no. It is not going away. Especially with all of the changes made recently in the last few years to the Braille code, people are talking about Braille more now than ever. Technology can increase Braille and its use, not be a replacement for it. Braille is literacy for people that have a significant vision loss. That is the way they learn to read. That is their literacy. Braille is not going anywhere. So that being said, some of the things that we might want to think about when it comes to Braille technology are what kind of skills and concepts are being reinforced when you're using that technology. Is it working on tactile discrimination? Is it working on tactile perception? Possibly social skills if it's being used in a gen ed setting or in a classroom setting. Can it be used to help reinforce and teach orientation concepts? Is it just for awareness within a classroom setting or within the general public? When you're thinking about these things, think about some of the tools and toys that are out there that add to Braille instruction and literacy for a toolbox, and then think about what is being taught or reinforced when you're using those tools. Especially think back to Sue's sessions on how Braille really needs to fit under finger pads and some of those beginning early literacy skills. We want to make sure that when we are teaching Braille, that it is Braille that actually fits under those finger pads. So here are a couple of examples of some of the things that are out there. The Taptillo. That is very large Braille. It does not fit under finger pads, but it would be an excellent tool to teach beginning concepts, some things like same and different, directional concepts, top, bottom, left, right. Just like Sue said yesterday, the different sides of the Braille cell. Work on finger strength and isolation, because young kids definitely need to develop that dexterity and strengthen their hands to be able to not only read Braille, but create Braille on a Braille writer. It would be excellent for social aspects, sharing, turn taking, working on Braille awareness within a classroom for sighted peers, and just maybe some of those beginning tracking skills. The BrailleBuzz, on the other hand, does have real Braille on it. It fits underneath the finger pads. It can be used for Braille letter identification, beginning letter writing, auditory feedback for sighted peers and adults, so it works very well in a classroom setting. And it's also fun, the kids love it. So for a social experience, it has a lot of benefits also. It's one of my very favorite new tools. I don't know if you can tell that or not. So we're really going to take a dive into the BrailleBuzz. I used it with my students. They loved it. They were always excited about it. The BrailleBuzz is an instructional toy or tool for young Braille learners that encourages practice with Braille characters and phonics. So it has a lot of different pieces to it. The shape of the device actually resembles a cartoon bumblebee and encourages feedback with fun sounds and auditory messages. It is black and yellow, so it is bright and works well for students with low vision as well. It has a very friendly recorded human voice. It's not that mechanical voice, which is a little bit easier for them to understand. Some pros to using the BrailleBuzz are that it's very lightweight. If you've ever had to carry a Perkins Braille writer around, especially for our young ones, our 3- and 4-year-olds, it's heavy. It's very heavy. The BrailleBuzz, very light, under a pound, I would say. It's inexpensive in the realm of Braille tools and items that are out there. It costs less than $100, which is phenomenal. The buttons on it are very easy to press, and they fit the hands of our small learners. Anybody that's worked on a Perkins Brailler knows it takes a lot of strength to push those buttons. And so these are much easier to press, so the student can work a little bit longer. It is available on bid from APH. We also have them in our loan library. It provides that auditory feedback, and they are highly motivational. Some of the cons to using them, I didn't have experience with this, but I have heard it from several different teachers around the state, are that they are easily broken. It's plastic, it's a toy, it's also a piece of technology. So if you have those students that are prone to throwing things or dropping things, it could get broken fairly easily. It does tend to run out of batteries right at the worst possible moment, because it is not rechargeable. It does run on batteries. It can be distracting. Some students I was not able to use it with because they would kind of perseverate on the sounds and they couldn't get past that. So it can be distracting in that way. And it does have the ability to change the volume, but if you're in a classroom setting and those reinforcing phonics sounds are going off, it can be, even on some of the lower settings, be very loud in a classroom setting. So at the top of the BrailleBuzz are what are called honeycomb keys, and there is a close-up on the screen of these honeycomb keys, and you will notice that there are plastic Braille dots on each one. Each one has a letter of the alphabet on it. It is real Braille. It does fit underneath the finger pads, so students can use this to practice Braille letter identification skills. I would have my students, I would call out a letter, or I would have them spell certain things like their name, and they would have to go through and find them and identify them. So it's reinforcing that way. And if you think about it, these plastic dots kind of lay the foundation for refreshable Braille displays that they're going to be seeing in hopefully the very near future. The more we can get these kinds of things underneath their fingers at an earlier age, the more likely they are to assimilate to them as they grow and learn. So the BrailleBuzz does have multiple features. It has a keyboard mode in which when you press the key combinations, the dot numbers are announced. I know if you participated in Sue's sessions yesterday, we don't want to focus solely on the dot numbers, but if you have older students or students that are have some vision. Sometimes this is a good thing for them. Just be aware that you don't want to focus on the numbers solely. It can be very confusing for them. It also has a letter mode in which you push it and it tells you the letter, and it's announced in that very motivating female voice. The kids loved it, but by far their favorite mode was the phonics mode, because as they press a letter, and it has to be an actual letter, it had a fun phonics sound that went along with it, and they would laugh and giggle. And if they press something that's not a letter, then they kind of got a fun bonging noise. The one that I wasn't able to use with that loved that bonging noise, so he would just keep pressing things that didn't make sense. So there are some very simple basic commands that they have to learn. And if you think about some of the commands and skills that they're going to need in the future, it does have some beginning teaching for that, which is kind of neat and exciting because it will grow with them, because there really are only about 4 of them. So it's very basic, but it does get them ready for refreshable Braille displays and other technologies in the future. So to turn it on, you just have to press and hold the A honeycomb key until it comes on. To turn it off, you do the Z honeycomb and the space bar quickly at the same time to turn it off. To change the mode, they're going to do a chord, which they're going to need for future technologies, and that is pressing the space bar and the letter M at the same time. They can press it either the honeycomb, or they can actually make the letter M and do the space bar at the same time. Or to change the volume, and there are 3 settings for volume: low, medium, and high. They would do the chord, the space bar, and a V at the same time. Those are all the basic commands. My students, I did this with students that were as young as 3, and they learned all of the chords within just a few weeks. So the BrailleBuzz really does build for the future. It helps them gain access and gives them those foundational skills that they will need for more complex technology in the future. This includes finger isolation for touch typing, tactile discrimination for refreshable Braille displays, because it does have that plastic pin kind of feel to it. It also helps with auditory listening for things like screen readers that they may need in the future. Some ways that you can incorporate the BrailleBuzz into your everyday instruction is make it part of your daily routine. It is a really good tool, but does not replace things like the Perkins Brailler. It is just one more tool to add to their toolbox and to make learning fun. I would always start out every lesson on the Perkins Brailler, but when their fingers or hands got tired, it did allow me to move them over to the BrailleBuzz for practice, because they could work longer on it than they could on the Perkins Brailler. It does reinforce those skills that are taught on the Braille Writer. It was also great for practice at home. I would send it home with them, especially over the summer breaks when they weren't necessarily going to receive services. And the parents, I got feedback from several of my parents saying how motivational it was, and it was amazing to them because they were actually able to work with their students on Braille. They hadn't been able to do that before because it does have that auditory feedback. So they could practice with them, they could call out letters, and they would know if their child had gotten it right or wrong. And I actually had one parent that said she would practice her letters And she was learning them along with the kids because it gave her the auditory feedback, and she would know if she was getting it right or wrong. So the parents that I sent it home with actually ended up buying it for their students, so they would have them at home as gifts for Christmas. One got it for Christmas, one got it for a birthday present, because their kids loved them so much. I know that's not an option for every family, but it is nice to have that option out there, because until this came around, there really wasn't anything like that for parents to get for their students. There's a plethora of alphabet, phonics, toys out on the market for students that are sighted, but there really wasn't anything for students that were going to be tactile learners. And that's one of the most exciting things about this. It was highly motivational and reinforcing. I often used it as a reward. If you do well enough on the Perkins Brailler, we can move over to the BrailleBuzz. And they never really thought of it as work. They thought of it more as play. And at that age, that's kind of what you want, learning through play. And like I said, it really helped maintain those skills over breaks. So it is a tool to add to their toolbox. It is not a replacement for anything else. Please put in the chat box any ways that you might be using it within your instruction. I told you some of the ways that I used it within mine. Are there any other tools that you're adding to the toolbox? Liz, have there been any questions?
We don't have any questions. Sue was just saying that there's so many possibilities with it, and it's not scary for parents and other teachers, so they seem more likely to work with it.
Yes, the parents loved it, the kids loved it. Classroom teachers, IAs, instructional assistants, or paraprofessionals within the classroom, because you don't necessarily have to know Braille to be able to use it, because it does give that auditory feedback. So it was also nice kind of as a center tool in some of the classrooms. Okay.
Oh, we do have a question from Stacy. Can it be used for spelling tests? Interesting question.
Well, I would have the kids spell things out, especially like their names, I would say, or one of the, and I should have put this on the pros or on the cons side, is that there is no hard copy that you get from this. You can't print it out. You can't turn it into a teacher. So that was a really great question. So if you were just doing it in a separate setting and you just wanted it to be motivational, you could have them do their spelling test, but you wouldn't get a hard copy like you do with the Perkins Brailler or something else. So you couldn't actually turn it in. But I did, as they were learning contractions, a lot of times we would practice them on it in keyboard mode. And we would practice spelling their names and simple words when they moved on to words. But just know you're not going to get a hard copy of anything.
And then Lois said that her student used it on long car rides when they went on vacation, which that's a great idea.
Oh, that is a great idea. Pack extra batteries, because like I said, they do tend to run out when you don't want them to. The other thing that I found with it is when you go to turn it on, you have to push the A honeycomb and you have to hold it for quite some time. And I never understood how it happened so easily from the trunk of my car. I would be driving down the road and all of a sudden I would be hearing the BrailleBuzz going off. And I'm like, that's not an easy thing to do. But yeah, as I was driving down the road, I would start to hear it go off some. So like I said, this is one of my former students. All of the students in this presentation were former students of mine that I worked with on the BrailleBuzz and I taught. They loved it. You could see they all had smiles on their faces when they were using it. Some of the things from the APH website that they have said and are direct quotes from students from around the country are, it's fun, it makes me giggle, it is light, I can carry it. I like the car horn. Like I said, they all had their favorite sounds when they were doing phonics mode. There's a bubbling one that my students really liked, and it's easy to type and write the letters. And that just kind of says it all. So does anybody have any questions or anything like that about the BrailleBuzz? I'm going to be turning it over to Andrea next, because she's going to talk about supplemental apps and refreshable Braille displays. So before she takes over, just want to make sure we will both, Andrea and I will also be in the debriefing room later this afternoon. So if you have questions that you want to join us and ask us then, we'll be available then. But if not, I'm going to.
One question that I think we want to answer, unless I missed it. Can you use headphones or earbuds with the BrailleBuzz?
Oh, no, that's a great question. And no, that is not one of the features, which is why that was kind of on the cons list about how it can be loud in a classroom setting or distracting, because there is not one. Last year when I went to ATIA, they were taking suggestions, because they are working on a second one that has more features, different features. They're looking at maybe making it a rechargeable battery and putting in like an earphone or jack. They're trying to balance. They want to make sure that they keep the cost down so it's affordable for families. But they are working on hopefully not a replacement to this one, because I love this one so much, but a second one with different features and things like that, possibly some contractions, early contractions and things like that. So keep your eye out. APH is coming out with pretty cool stuff every day now. New fun, exciting Braille things. It's amazing. So I'm going to let Andrea take it away.
Hello, Sherry, that was fantastic. Thanks for another great overview of the ever so cute and fun BrailleBuzz. Sherry is obviously very passionate about this toy, and rightfully so, because it really is something that exists specifically for Braille learners and Braille readers. So it's really fun and exciting to see stuff like that, and more to come. So if you want to learn more, I saw somebody in the chat box said that they saw your presentation at ATIA. And so with that being said, she's presented about this at ATIA. She also presented for APH on the BrailleBuzz. And if you want to see her hour-long presentation with super cute videos of her students, you definitely want to go to their YouTube channel to check it out. Maybe one of my colleagues can throw the link to that presentation in the chat box for us. That would be fantastic. So definitely check that out to see some cute videos. Alrighty, so like Sherry said, that was kind of one of the first devices really to be like a speak and say, or one of those fun phonics toys for students with visual impairments who are Braille readers. And so the same thing for apps. There really haven't been a lot of apps related directly to Braille until fairly recently. More apps are coming out, and of course one of them being the BrailleBuzz, which we will talk about, but I plan on covering a few more apps that are directly related to Braille. I really appreciated Sherry reminding us that the BrailleBuzz actually can lead to some concepts of using a refreshable Braille display, like chords or shortcuts and some basic navigation. So using that toy and then maybe moving on to something like a tablet and a refreshable Braille display can be beneficial to help make that connection. So there are a few apps, like I said, some treats, no tricks for your toolbox, and we have some ghost bees up on our screen ready to lead us through this presentation. maybe if I can, there we go. All right, so why an early introduction to Refreshable Braille? I'd be curious as I'm talking, please type in the chat box if you have early Braille learners that you're using a Refreshable Braille display with. You can just type wire in. I'd just be very curious to know, and Liz can kind of let me know what's going on there. Depending on the quality of the Refreshable Braille display, you could have access to some nice crisp Braille under the student's fingers, and it's real Braille. It's not jumbo Braille or something like the Taptillo. It's real Braille like that's on the BrailleBuzz. It can be a fun and motivating addition to lessons, just like the BrailleBuzz was. Plus, it provides important exposure to technology. And I really want you to think back to what Donna and Sue were saying yesterday during their presentation about disrupting that whole sequence of being ready. Remember, you're not necessarily going to teach them how to use the Refreshable Braille display right now. It's that exposure to that technology and exposure to a wider world of print. We live in this print-rich environments everywhere, and we want to help make that connection, that it exists in lots of places. So making that connection is really important, and using a Refreshable Braille display can help make that connection. And as I said, it's just access to more print. So Liz, did anybody type in the chat box about using a Refreshable Braille display with their early learners?
We had one person say no. So.
Okay. Thank you. I know you're out there. I know you're doing it. And I think I have this slide in every presentation I do about Refreshable Braille displays because it includes really important reminders about why students still need to learn Braille on embossed Braille pages. And this actually comes from a blog website called Braille Tips for Literacy that Tessa McCarthy was involved in. She has some literature review on there and lots of videos of hand movement, but you're going to be able to check in with Tessa McCarthy tomorrow and see her presentation on Braille hand movement. So you actually get to interact with her. So I highly recommend joining that session, and I'm sure she will touch on hand movement and Refreshable Braille as well. But the quote I took from this website is, students who use embossed Braille learn essential reading skills, such as the proper hand movement and finger positions. In addition, students who use embossed Braille learn crucial reading skills, such as sentence structure, paragraph structure, grammar, and punctuation. Although it is important for young students who use Braille to learn beginning reading skills using embossed Braille, they should be introduced to electronic Braille at an early age to familiarize them with the tool that will prove to be extremely beneficial as they progress in grade level. So this slide serves as twofold, as a reason you should be still providing instruction on embossed paper, but also that you should be should be introducing these tools early on. All right, so let's reinforce some Braille literacy with some tech. We're going to get techie with it and add refreshable Braille displays to your bags of treats. So we've been discussing early literacy and we learned about the BrailleBuzz, but did you know there's an app for that? So that will be one of the apps that we are covering today, and that is available on Android and Apple, and it is free. Free is for me. The other apps that we will be covering are the Reading Adventure Time app, and I should have put, they have an exclamation point after Reading Adventure Time because it's exciting. So Reading Adventure Time, that is free, and as far as I know, it's only available on Apple iOS. Writing Adventure Time with an exclamation point that I didn't put there is also free, and that is available from Apple iOS. There's also this really cute one. I can't wait to talk about this. It's called Exploring Braille with Madeline and Ruff, and that one is free and also available on iOS. And then there's also the iBraille Challenge app. However, I have been informed that it is currently being updated and not available, and there's not really a launch date for the refresh of this app. I did go look on the App Store and it looked like I could still download it. I'm not saying that you should go do that because it sounds like they're making some important updates, but if you just wanted to check it out to see what it looks like now, and it is available, go for it. I do have a link there so you can go to our handouts page and check out the live links. Again, I can't express this enough that these are supplemental apps, just like the BrailleBuzz is a fun supplement to integrate that play learning of Braille. Same thing with these apps. They are a supplement. They must be used with a refreshable Braille display, and they also must be used in conjunction with a total balanced literacy program. Have any questions or comments so far, Liz?
Yes. So Karen was asking, when you're talking about early exposure, how early is early? Are you talking about elementary school, earlier?
I think pre-K exposure. We saw in the video from Donna McNear, not video, well, in her video, there was a photo of a very young man who I would say was definitely preschool, had a refreshable Braille under his fingers. It's just exposure. Again, just that making that connection that it's out there, and she had it connected with a screen reader. So they had that auditory going on with the refreshable Braille under their fingers. I really think that exposure is important at that young of an age, but the soonest you can, the better. It does. So I guess, again, I go back to, if there's anybody out there doing this, please type in the chat box.
Yeah, most other comments, they've said no, or they have very little experience with them.
With refreshable Braille displays.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
So just another comment, Charlotte Walls she's grateful for that quote on Braille, because as a Braille transcriber, she was worried that her job would be obsolete with technology. So no, that's not happening.
No, ma'am. As Sherry covered earlier, Braille is not going anywhere. That is literacy. That's like taking away pen and pencil and taking away print from the world. It truly is. That is the literacy medium for students who are going to be Braille readers. It's not going anywhere. And that's why I also love that there are apps now. There may be just 5, maybe there's more that I know of. And if you do know, please type in the chat box. But 5 is better than 0. It's better than 1. So I have a feeling maybe there'll be more to come, but we'll talk a little bit more about the future of Braille in my next session. So anyway, BrailleBuzz, here it is. It's really cute. This is the icon I have up there. And of course, they have a cute little bee buzzing about for Braille on a honeycomb. And it is available on iOS and Android, as I stated. And they created it specifically to use with the Chameleon 20, which is one of their refreshable Braille displays that they partnered with Humanware to create. And I love it. And I may be a little biased because I got to be a part of the think tank to help come up with ideas to create the Chameleon 20. So I am a little biased, but it's a great Braille display, actually. And also the Braille Trail Reader LE. And these are 2 that, yes, they are available on quota funds, but however, we have them available in our loan library for you to trial with students. And stay tuned for maybe a big announcement coming this spring about a program we'll be rolling out next year for the Mantis Q40 and the Chameleon 20 for your 3rd graders. So just stay tuned. I'm just putting that out there. I hope Kay is not cringing in her seat. And then it can be used with other Braille displays as well. You don't just have to use those devices. So if you have other Braille displays at your disposal, it will work. There just may be some different setup options that you want to go through and play with before using the app with your student. Just like the physical BrailleBuzz, it has a phonics mode and a letter mode. And so we'll go a little bit more in depth of those modes on the app. And then it does have also an about button at the bottom, and it has recommended settings. And I do have those listed here to have quick navigation off, disable the on-screen keyboard so it doesn't pop up over the app and you can't see all of the functions. And to change the Braille input and output, so that would be under voiceover settings, you want to change them to uncontracted or 8-dot computer Braille for best results. But I would say uncontracted works just fine. So here I have some screenshots of the BrailleBuzz app, and as you can see, it mimics what the BrailleBuzz has. I have a little BrailleBuzz here. Well, it's kind of, they're a little bit larger than you imagine. And of course my screen, my background won't let me get it too close, but it has the honeycomb buttons with print letters across. And of course the OG BrailleBuzz has, the physical one has the Braille dots, but the Braille would show up on the refreshable Braille display when you're using VoiceOver. And it has the honeycomb across the top portion of the app. Then it has the modes along the bottom of the app. So it has phonics, letter, and about. And the two screenshots I have here are both on the Android operating system, but it shows it in what it looks like on a tablet and what it looks like on a phone. All right, so back to those two modes. The phonics mode, as you learned from Sherry, it announces the letter sound, and a word begins with that letter sound, and it's so fun. Like A is for apple, ah, and then you hear a big crunch into a big juicy apple, and it's super fun and motivating, and that would be the phonics mode. And then letter mode announces the name of the letter, and it does use the numeric dot locations as well. But again, you don't have to focus on that, and you can focus on that spatial orientation when you're actually working with your student. Remember, this is just a supplement and as part of play for your young ones. The about section, of course, has the information on using the iPad settings, and it also gives you a link to connecting a refreshable Braille display. So if you're not super familiar, it actually gives you nice step-by-step instructions, and it's built into the app. So everything's in one place, and it's not really intimidating for teachers or for parents. Any questions or comments so far?
Nope, not so far. We're good.
Okie dokie. All right. So so I have not used this with a student. This is just me, but this is what I would do. I would sit down and play with it and figure it out and figure the ins and outs before I actually sat down with a student. So this is just through my experience and what I would probably set it up as to use with a student. So some iPad tips. You definitely do want to disable that on-screen keyboard. It would keep covering up the buttons on the screen in the app. So I couldn't see them, or if I wanted to navigate to them as the sighted user, that would be a challenge. So you definitely want to disable that and make sure it's hidden when the Braille display is connected. You want to set that Braille input and output to uncontracted. When you have it set to contracted, it has the grade 1 indicator. So this would be up to you and what you know about your student. And maybe if they're learning about that grade 1 indicator, you could turn it to contracted and have it there and talk about, okay, what does it mean when this grade 1 indicator is in front of this letter? So that would be between you and what you know about your student, because you know your student best. And two, so when you're using majority of these apps, the letter is just alone, and it's one letter just sitting there on the refreshable Braille display. So I highly recommend turning on status cells, and I'm going to talk more about status cells in my next session. Which is just it's a hidden message essentially about the environment that you're in on an iPad. So it could be about VoiceOver. You could have had an unread text message. And so the status cells, which takes up like 3 to 4 cells on your refreshable Braille display, just gives you a little indication that, oh, there's a message or something that I need to check out. Now you can disable those so you have full access to all the cells in the refreshable Braille display, or you can turn it on. I highly recommend having that preference selected and putting it to the left side of the Braille display so that they have some sort of spatial orientation about where they are in the Braille cell when they put their fingers on there. So when they go, they have something to go over and lead them to the next Braille cell, which would be to the letter that's being displayed by VoiceOver. Does that make sense? A little.
I think so. So it's like having lead lines. but
Yeah,
they're not
yes, but
it's
it's not lead
feather.
lines.
Yeah.
It's one cell. So that would be one of the downfalls, one of the cons of using these apps is you don't have all, like when you think about those tracking sheets, there's lots of Braille to follow and track along. And this only gives you two cells essentially. So just something to think about as you're integrating these into your lessons. And there's nothing to say that you can't make tracking sheets on your own for refreshable Braille displays, just like you make tracking sheets, or Sue showed the one of the pumpkins, the pumpkin patch yesterday. There's nothing to say you can't make that for something to be displayed on a refreshable Braille display. So yeah, so the status cells, I'd have them to the left position for that spatial orientation. If you put it to the right, that's not going to do you any good because then it's way at the other end of the refreshable Braille display. You want to mute voiceover because it does have a self voice and it could be confusing having those competing voices, and the focus is to be on the Braille anyway. So you don't want voiceover taking charge. Now, I practiced using this with the Focus 40 and the Chameleon 20. And I would, just my impression, so when I was teaching, I used the Focus 40 a lot and taught students how to use the Focus 40. And to go back how many iterations ago this was, it was like first generation Focus 40 where it had the whiz wheels, if anybody remembers that, if you've been using technology for a while. And then I remember I got an upgrade to the one with the rocker bars on each side. So I've used two different Focus 40 displays, and at the time I was like, yeah, these are so easy, they're so great. But then I started using the Chameleon 20 and I'm like, oh man, this is just really, the menus are really intuitive, and I just found it really easy to navigate and less intimidating, and it has less thumb keys across the front. So it's not to say one is better than the other. I just thought for intuitiveness and ease of use, especially for younger students, it just seemed a little easier to navigate. That's just my opinion. Of course, you always want to trial devices, which next session, see you there. So yeah, so fewer buttons and thumb keys, I think, to get confused with on the Chameleon. And okay, so we all know there's that delay. If you're using a refreshable Braille display with an iPad, you'll be brailing along a word and you're like, why isn't it showing up in notes, or why isn't it showing up in pages? And you have to enter space, right, for it to populate. Well, I kept doing that and going, this doesn't work. This is not, no, I don't understand this. This means I can't use a Braille display. Oh no, you just have to press enter, which is dot 8. If you're familiar with computer Braille or using a refreshable Braille display, which is the key you can use under your pinky on the Braille keyboard. So you have to hit enter to make things.
I don't know if that's me or if that's Andrea. Okay, we'll see if she comes back.
I think that's Andrea, because Liz, I can hear you, but
Okay.
Andrea is frozen on my screen at the moment.
She's frozen on my screen as well. Let me see. Okay, so you guys can hear us. Let me see what's going on the back end here. All right, she might have to leave and rejoin us. I'm going to try sending her a text to see what's going on there.
Oh, I think she left.
Think she's coming back. Okay.
Yeah, I think she left.
All right.
Magic of
What
Zoom.
I'm pulling up her presentation on my computer. Just give us a sec.
Okay.
Perfect.
So one of the things that Andrea mentioned with I think she talked about self-voicing, and I don't know if everyone knows what that means, but that's where there's the app itself has like a voiceover feature where it tells you everything that's going on in the app, and that's why she was talking about turning off voiceover, because then you would have two voices trying to speak at the same time. So if the app is fully accessible in and of itself and has that voice that goes along with it, then those are the ones where you don't necessarily need that voiceover turned on. just
So
type
Liz,
with
this
the
is
one.
Kay. So I just want
Hi
to jump
there.
in because hi guys. While we're waiting, so I just saw a question from Brandy about, as the kids get older, when will this technology be used for homework assignments? Actually, in Florida, there is a standard in first grade that students will be using technology with assistance to create writing and reading. So as early as first grade, that is a statewide standard that students should be doing. So I think that's something we need to realize, is that need for, hey, she's back. All right, so
I'm Sue now.
right, there we go.
I am Sue, and she's making a wall.
Hey, you have to do what you have to do.
You
Technology
gotta
is free until it isn't.
I love giving a technology presentation and the technology breaks, because it just goes to show that that's just the way it goes. It doesn't matter how well you prepare and plan and you charge and it always something happens. Something always happens. So I'm sorry to have interrupted your thought, Kay. I'm going to touch on standards in my next presentation.
Okay, good. But I just kind of, that question had just come up. So, and I think this is like you're saying, Andrew, we have this. If COVID has taught us nothing, it has taught us we have to be flexible. We have to be flexible. We have to be able to pivot on a moment's notice. And that is exactly what. So kudos, high five. You guys figured it out down there. And that's what we got to do. I mean, that's just, we can't just throw up our hands and say, oh, well, it broke. We're not going to do this anymore. That's not the way this world works anymore. So go for it. Bye. I'm gonna go.
Thank you, Kay.
Okay.
I think that's just such an important point, that it's a balance. And I think teachers, please kiss your brains and be patient with yourself. Everything is incredibly overwhelming, and that's okay. And I'm just going to chase a squirrel now. I was listening to something on the radio this morning that just talked about how students feel when their teachers are unprepared during all this. They feel their education isn't valued. But as an educator, I really took that to heart, as saying, I think teachers are trying their hardest and doing their best. And yes, I get that that's their lens, that's their paradigm and perspective. These students feeling that teachers aren't valuing their education, but you do care. And it takes time. This is all new, it's novel. Everything's novel right now. And so just be patient with yourself, and it's one day at a time, and one step in learning the technology at a time, not one piece of technology at a time, one step in learning that piece of technology at a time. I hope that helps. Okay, now I need to figure out how to share my presentation. Okay, sharing screen. Thank you so much, Sue, for rescuing me. I know anybody would have done that if you were in the room with me. Where are we? Let me find my slide. I just gotta find the slide. Where was I? Was I still on here? I think I was.
Yes, you were just finishing up on that slide.
Okay, taking it back. Now I don't have my notes. Man. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get it open on my other computer too. I'll try to multitask. Okay, so yes, were there any other questions or anything else that needed to be addressed before I moved on from the BrailleBuzz? If we have time, I'll demo these, but it's looking like we might not, but I can do that during the debriefing session as well, depending on time and questions. So any other questions?
Brandy was following up on when technology would be used for homework, and it sounds like they don't have that technology at home, so there's just confusion. And I think between those two, using a Perkins Braille writer and the technology.
Do you have a Perkins Braille writer at home, or is there a Perkins Braille writer at home would be the question.
Sounds like yes, they do have, yeah.
So it would be best to be able to use the technology in both places, but if the student's still learning, then if it's at school and they're not proficient in it, okay, so it can live at school. However, I think it's really important that students are able to practice to use it, show their parents, show their siblings. and use it across a multitude of settings. But maybe if the student's not proficient in the device, it might not be maybe ready to come home. It depends on the student. It depends on the situation. Everything is very different and situational.
And
Yeah, Andrea, and I just like to add that, you know, when the students are first learning these devices, there is a huge learning curve, and it can be very frustrating for them if they do take them home and they don't have that support and they're not proficient on it. It can be very frustrating for them at home. So a lot of times they do learn about them and learn to use them at school. And then as they get better at them, more proficient, and practice takes place, they can use them a little bit more independently. That's kind of when they transition into the home. I know that's how I would have done it when I was teaching. So hopefully that helps. I know we do have parents on here today and maybe questioning that. So just keep those things in mind also.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sherry. Okay.
And there was one other comment. I just wanted to, are you talking about keyboarding at all, Andrea, this session or the next?
Next session.
Next session. Okay.
Keyboarding is important.
Yeah.
Very, very important. And yes, we will talk about that next session. So I encourage you to be there.
Okay.
Okay. There's so much our students need to learn. And being their teachers means that you also have to learn how to teach those important skills as well. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So integrating Braille and technology. So some of the ways that you can integrate the BrailleBuzz app, and this is just what I was thinking, spitballing. You may have your wheels spinning, thinking about how you could integrate this app, but you could use the phonics mode to really encourage technology and Braille literacy at the same time. So you could be using Mangold or what have you, and then integrate this as a fun way maybe to review the symbols that you are working on. And then you can kind of shift it to reinforcing voiceover gestures, such as exploring on the iPad, using that you touch and you leave your finger on and you just run your finger over that line of honeycombs. And that also relates to typing. It's just using one finger though, so just keep that in mind. But going across in a straight line, hearing all those letters in the row of the BrailleBuzz app. You can practice swiping. So just swiping to the right, going to the next item. You can use split taps. So that's when you have one finger on the screen already, and then you select the item underneath using a different finger. So one finger is still on and the other is tapping to make a selection. You can teach cursor concepts. She's saving me. She printed out my notes. The concept of a cursor, that blinking line on the screen, that happens in the BrailleBuzz app too. When you're especially in letter mode, that's one thing that you would use. And there's two dots in those lower cells, 7 and 8, where there's blinking dots, and that's the cursor that's on the screen. So you can make early connections of that cursor concept. And then buttons on a flat screen. You can go relating the buttons on the physical BrailleBuzz to the app, saying there's buttons too, but you just can't feel them. And you can make selections by using the Refreshable Braille display in this way. So by hitting enter, you can make a selection on a button, and you can navigate the buttons by using the thumb keys. So lots of things that you could integrate technology and Braille literacy together. Work smarter, not harder. Yes, so I covered you can use it to practice just refreshable Braille display navigation as well. So not just using gestures, but making sure you're using the thumb keys for navigation as well. Students could read the symbol or letter on the Braille display. Then you can use an embossed tracking sheet to find that same symbol or letter. So kind of like maybe flashcards in a sense. You could use letter or phonics mode to type and read letters, and then pair it with an alphabet bag. So you could pick one specific letter that you're working on that day and have an alphabet bag of real objects, or you could walk around the room or find those items around the room that start with that letter sound. So you can integrate a lot of different ECC areas around using this technology as well. Or you can use an embossed worksheet of a specific symbol and pair it with a swing cell. So instead of focus on those numeric dot locations, you can focus on first side, second side, top, middle, bottom, and relate that to typing into the Braille display as well. Any questions or comments? Oh, I'm using the wrong keyboard. Okay. All right, the next app I'm going to talk about is the Reading Adventure Time app. It's also known as the Braille Challenge mobile app, which I found to be very confusing. I got it confused with the iBraille Challenge app. So if you were confused at one point about that, you're not alone. I was very confused too. This app is super, super cool. It was a collaborative project between California State University and the Braille Institute of America. And it was created as kind of an assessment and instructional to increase technology skills. So really to focus on kind of an assessment tool of Braille and literacy skills, and also a way to pair technology with that. The caveat is students must be, they must know the Braille code, and they have to learn how to use an iPad with VoiceOver. So those are the things before you use this app that your student should be familiar with and know. What's really nice though is when you go to sign up for this app for an account, it gives you this super long checklist of skills that your student needs. So as a teacher, you're like, yes, this is a way I can make sure that my student knows everything they need to know to be able to use this app efficiently. Which what's beautiful is all those skills generalize to using the iPad in general. So all the swipes or gestures and all the commands that students learn through that checklist, which also has videos. If you're not sure what that means or how to teach it, you can click on a video and voila, you know. So that I think this app just is really great for so many reasons. Again, the students must know Braille. It supports Braille literacy and reading and writing, grade levels 1st through 12th grade. And the sub-skills that it focuses on are building fluency, comprehension, Braille symbol recognition, which for fluency, you need to have good Braille symbol recognition, and spelling and word retrieval. So in a recent JVIB article that actually was published this year, the article is called Investigating the Efficacy of Reading Adventure Time for Improving Reading Skills in Children with Visual Impairments. The statement right at the bottom before you read the research, it says implications for practitioners. This study provides evidence supporting Reading Adventure Time as a supplemental intervention that addresses several reading skills and may be used in conjunction with a total balanced literacy program. So there you go. It's something to help supplement, a way for students to practice and maybe have some independent practice. And they have data to support that it can help, especially if used with a balanced literacy program. So is this going to teach your student Braille? No. Again, we talked about lots of curricula yesterday. Thank you, Sherry, for sharing all that wonderful information and all of those resources. So using one of those and using this could be very beneficial for your students, and they're also using and learning technology. Win-win.
We have a couple of questions on
Yes.
this Reading Adventure Time. So this is only an iOS app?
Correct.
Okay. And can you use it on an iPhone in addition to an iPad? Or is it just for iPad?
I can't remember exactly. I want to say it was only available on the iPad. There's a way you can trick your iPhone into downloading these apps, and that's something we can talk about offline as well.
And so and then a couple other people were asking about, can you use this with a refreshable Braille display, or do they need to use the Braille keyboard on the iPad screen?
Great question. All of these apps that I'm discussing today must be used with a refreshable Braille display. So the idea is we want to have real Braille under their fingers while they're using these apps and learning this technology. That's one thing I think, I mean, I saw years ago and now, is that when we introduce technology to students and we start looking at screen readers, I think we start to get away from the Braille, because it was also, I think for many reasons, and it's only guesses on my part. I don't have any data to show, just what I've seen out in the field, but I think we just got away from keeping real Braille under students' fingers electronically to provide access to what's on the computer or tablet or whatever it may be. Students were still maybe getting embossed Braille, but they were just using a screen reader with technology and not necessarily always also a refreshable Braille display, unless they had a Braille note taker.
Okay, so then when they're using this one, they would want to turn voiceover off?
I'm going to get to that.
You get it? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okie dokie pokies. Thank you. Great questions. Keep them coming. So here's some screenshots of Reading Adventure Time. And this is just a screenshot. The first screenshot is of the a small portion of the list, the checklist of what iOS skills the student needs. So it says, I know how to turn iOS switches on and off. I know how to use the on-screen keyboard for my iPad. I know how to unlock, lock the iPad screen orientation. So it's just really small, simple chunks of what the student needs to know to be able to use their iPad efficiently. And there's videos, as you can see as well, video links there. Pardon me. So then the second screenshot is I just used because I didn't have any students to put in, but you can put in students and put in student profiles. And this is the demo students reading center. So the activities that they have a reading placement test where they have to read passages and answer questions to determine their current reading level. Then there's the reading challenge, and that's where your whatever reading placement they got, that's where their reading challenges will start. And it actually monitors their progress as they continue, which is great. That's data for you. Work smarter, not harder. And so then there's some fun activities and games. One is called Braille Hunt, which is you can hunt for target characters in a string of letter or numbers. So that's kind of like a tracking sheet to find the letter or symbol that you're looking for. There's deduction detective, which is, that's really poor content. Read short passages and answer a recall and inference question. And then there are repeated readings. So students there will try to beat their best scores in those repeated readings. And it keeps track of that progress in the app. So really cool. And when they first launched this app, they were giving away $100 gift cards. I was like, oh, please, people, use this app and get your $100 gift card. Anyway, so this app is launched. It's ready to use with your current Braille readers, and it could be a fun way to motivate students to improve their Braille skills and also teach or learn some technology along the way, or get better technologies. Maybe they know how to use an iPad, but there's some other things they could learn to be more efficient users of that device. So settings and devices. So thank you, Liz, for that segue. On the iPad, you're going to want to put the Braille input and output to contracted. Remember, these are students that should be familiar with the Braille code. I'll talk about that next session. Sorry. And you want to turn the status cells off because you want to be able to use every single cell in that refreshable Braille display. They did show a video, and the students were using the Focus 40. So that's 40 cells of refreshable Braille. I was using it. I did not use it with the Focus 40. I practiced using it with the Chameleon 20. So just remember, that's more panning because it's a 20 cell refreshable Braille display instead of a 40 cell. And Liz, I think there's a question that I didn't address. Oh, to turn voiceover off. Yes. You would want to turn voiceover off, or well, not off, mute it, sorry. That would work best. They do have robotic characters that speak and have self-voicing. So it would be good to turn off the voiceover unless some students may need that verbal prompt, but if they're okay with voiceover being on, because these are probably going to be a little bit older students that are using this, it just depends on your student. I would recommend turning it off. Not off, muted, sorry, to be specific. Any other questions?
We had one about how a child who is blind can read Braille on an iPad, but I'm going to address that. Where they have the voiceover where that reads everything that's on the screen and you're using gestures to navigate, or you can use that refreshable Braille display to have what's on the screen shown to you.
Yes, I probably, thinking hindsight, we probably should have done the refreshable Braille display session first and then this one, but oh well. We'll talk more about what drives different Braille displays in the next session. But yes, you have to have a screen reader to drive the refreshable Braille display. That's what actually translates to Braille. But there are Braille displays that also provide different settings and functions. So we'll talk more about that next session. Thank you, Liz. Writing Adventure Time. This app is in progress, and I really, I'm not too sure if they're integrating this into Reading Adventure Time or if this is going to continue to be a separate app, but it's designed to support Braille literacy in the area of writing for 1st through 12th graders. It's the same people that made Reading Adventure Time, which is Tessa McCarthy was involved in that project, Kay Holbrook, Cheryl Kamehanan, I hope I said her name correctly, and Frances Mary DeAndrea. So all those folks were involved in the creation of these apps, and they did a lot of research and a lot of work to make them happen. So I think they're still working on this. It seems to be in progress. There was still, when I opened the app, it was in ASCII Braille, which means it was in like numbers and different symbols to make Braille show up. But it wasn't displaying correctly. I couldn't get all the activities to work, and it looks like fun when it's done. And students will be able to do timed activities. They'll be able to Braille what they hear, such as word, phrases, or sentences. And it seems to me it's a lot like speed and accuracy from the Braille Challenge, if you're familiar with that test for the older students. So I think they're still working on this. There were some activities that worked, such as the blinking Braille game and the Braille scramble. So those are some things you might want to check out and go download the app and play around, and don't be scared, just play. It's an important part of learning, as we've been discussing.
These apps, Andrea, are there teacher accounts or are they?
Great question. So for Reading Adventure Time and Writing Adventure Time, if you sign up for one app, you'll get an email and it'll give you a password. And so you use your email address and that password to log in, and you can use it for either app. And you will select that you are a teacher when it gets to that question when you're signing up to use the app. And then if you have a student who's signing up, then they would choose student. So you can choose your role. And I think parent is on there as well, and then there's an other. I keep using the wrong keyboard. All right, so if there are no more questions about that, the second to last app I'd like to talk about is real quick is the iBraille Challenge app. So when it is ready, you can get your students excited and ready for your Florida Regional Braille Challenge. The Braille Challenge is still provided on, the contest is still on embossed Braille paper, so it's not through the app, but this could give your students a fun way to practice some skills and reinforce their technology skills as well, and get ready and pumped up for the Florida Regional Braille Challenge near you. Now, if you're looking for resources to emboss or practice contest to emboss, go directly to the Braille Institute website. This link here goes directly to the contest, so you don't have to wade through the Braille Institute website to find the contest. So when you download this PowerPoint from our handouts, this is a live link. So as you can see in the screenshot on the right-hand side of the iBraille Challenge app, it has the test center where it has reading comprehension, spelling, speed and accuracy, and proofreading. Tactile graphics are missing. I wonder why, for good reason. So those are something that would definitely have to be embossed to practice, but they also have links to tutorials and resources, text instructions, information about the Braille Challenge. And then it has the different groups, testing groups at the bottom: apprentice, freshman, sophomore, junior varsity, and varsity. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, this last app is just so cute and adorable. And it was designed by a parent. I don't know if she actually made the app, but it was designed by a parent because she wanted an accessible app that reinforced Braille literacy for her daughter, and she wanted to see an app out there with someone who looks like her daughter, just to have that association that there are people out there like me. So that's for other students to say, hey, there's somebody with a cane. So this is Exploring Braille with Madeline and Ruff, and the opening screen has this picture of a young girl with her cane and her trusty dog Ruff, who is not a guide dog, just her family dog. So there are different options within this app that I'm going to go over, but across the top in the left-hand corner, it has some buttons that I think are worth mentioning. It has an audio description of what's on the screen. So somebody who wants to hear about the description on the screen of Madeline and Ruff. And then it has a settings cog, which I'll get into later. And it also has on the far right, SimBraille, a SimBraille button that is for you to practice with a built-in keyboard to this app, an on-screen keyboard for someone who wants to learn Braille, like a sibling or a parent or somebody who just wants to practice. It's just a good place to go and play. So those are things that are available in this app as well. But let's get to the meat of the app on keyboard. So there are two areas in the app, Teach Me and Let's Play. So in Teach Me, they have two games, flashcards and Alpha Guide. Flashcard shows one letter at a time, and you have to navigate using a next arrow button. So what technology concepts could you integrate into flashcards? Remember, all these apps are using a refreshable Braille display and voiceover enabled, but the voice will be muted. So what skills, if it shows one letter at a time and you can navigate using a next arrow button? Anybody?
Don't see anything yet. People might be typing or
I know.
thinking.
I get excited.
So we have recognition of letters, tracking.
Good Braille skills. What about technology? Integrating that technology. So we've got the Braille piece. So what technology can be reinforced as well?
Command, thumb keys.
Thumb keys, woo woo, for navigation, yes. And commands, I love it. That's great. All right, so as people are typing, I'll keep, oh, what?
I don't see any more.
Okay, perfect, I'll keep going. And just keep typing in the chat box and Liz will get me up to date. There's the Alpha Guide, which goes through the alphabet automatically, and the Braille automatically refreshes on the display as it cycles through the letters on screen. There is a slight delay between the self voice and the refresh on the display, and it does announce numeric dot locations as well. So just a heads up there. Let's Play, and I have this highlighted for a reason, because I think Let's Play could be a beautiful marriage of reinforcing Braille skills and technology skills. And And within Let's Play, it has a reading and a writing option. So for reading, of course, you want to have the speech muted or turn speech off or mute voiceover. And it asks you to find a specific letter out of 3 choices. So 3 choices are displayed on the screen, and they're in jumbo, sim braille, and in print. So for students maybe who are dual media learners, or if you have siblings or parents playing along with your student who's a Braille learner or reader, it has the visual output as well. So the student then would have to use those thumb keys to navigate between each letter, or a teacher might need to press those thumb keys to navigate if the student's not there yet. And then the student could read the Braille. And again, you're going to want to have those status symbols on to give that spatial position. And they have to choose the right one. So pressing enter, not space, learn from my mistakes, press enter and to make that selection. And if you get it right, you earn a bone for rough. Really cute. And he barks, and that's adorable. Then there's writing, and it has an on-screen keyboard, and you can also use it with a refreshable Braille display. I would say that using the on-screen keyboard would be more for someone who has some vision, because it's in a very specific location. It's not like using the on-screen Braille keyboard built into VoiceOver. It's just specifically for this app, and you'd want to turn VoiceOver completely off, because as you know, you have to double tap to select with one finger when using VoiceOver. So this one you'd want to be able to use more than one finger to make a selection of those that on-screen keyboard. So you'd want to turn VoiceOver completely off. It does have numbers on each key, but it does not announce those out loud. If you were using this with a student without a refreshable Braille display, then you would want to put a tactile overlay or some markers of where those keys might be. So again, this would be good for maybe dual media learners, parents, or siblings, but use a refreshable Braille display because you're going to get the best results and make better connections with real Braille and reinforcing those technology skills. So with the Braille display, you'll want to mute the speech and press enter or .8 to get that audio feedback from the app. So I love Let's Play. And so this goes back to those settings that I mentioned earlier. In the right-hand corner, you see the settings box, and it lets you select letters can be presented in a random order instead of alphabetically. So students won't be going A, B, C, D, just memorizing the alphabet. Maybe they need to really identify those letters, so you could have them displayed randomly. You can have it display Braille images only, which maybe if you're a sighted user, like a parent or a sibling, and you want to just test your knowledge of the Braille code visually, then you could select display Braille images only. You can also customize which letters are displayed and used throughout the app. So you can select letters that the student knows and add on as students learn. So those are the settings, and I think that's really neat. I think this parent put a lot of thought into this app. I think that's really cool and incredible that a parent came up with this. So kudos to that parent, Madeline's mom. Let's see, iPad settings. So you want to have VoiceOver muted. It is self-voicing, and when I say self-voicing, it just means it has its own built-in audio. Uncontracted input and output in Braille, and you want to set that the status cell to left cells, so left side of the Braille display cells, and show general status. And so a quick note about the status cells. I said that word a lot, and it'll be said again in the next session, but it can be different depending on the app you're using and where you are on the iPad. The status cells could be an O or an I. You don't really need to focus on what it is, just that make sure that it has a clear indication of top and bottom of the cell. I would say that's really important. The wrong keyboard again. So that's almost a wrap. So again, just to review, these are supplemental tools, and I hope that you're inspired to start integrating these into your students' curriculum and just exposing them to technology and Refreshable Braille and making that connection that there's this print-rich environment existing on a tablet as well, and there's access to so much more information out there. Remember, all devices and apps should be incorporated into a balanced Braille reading program and not used as a sole instructional tool. Be sure to integrate the apps and a Refreshable Braille device into your lessons when possible. I know life is very overwhelming right now. You guys got this though. You can create your own fun worksheets to integrate into your lessons. So earlier I mentioned, like Sue showed her pumpkin patch tracking sheet. You can make something like a tracking sheet to use with a Refreshable Braille display as well, and be creative and use your own lessons to integrate, to add to that variety of Braille that students get under their fingers, real Braille that students get under their fingers. And what's so cool to me is that accessible and meaningful apps are being created for our students who are Braille learners and readers. I think that's awesome, and I think more is to come. And like Sherry said, APH is developing more all the time, and it's a beautiful thing. So, oh yes, how could I forget our loan library? So those of you Floridians in the room, if you are teaching here in Florida at an agency or a K-12 public school, or I think I said agency. If I didn't, I'm sorry, agencies as well. The BrailleBuzz can be ordered through us through APH on federal quota. For students, we do have some in our loan library that you're welcome to trial. If you're not sure if this would work for a student and you want to try before you buy, you're welcome to. We do have iPads with apps loaded on them for loan. We have a slew of Refreshable Braille displays, which I will go over some in my next session. And there's a link to our loan library on here. So Sherry, are we ready to know who is in the running for a raffle for a BrailleBuzz? Did you all know that you could possibly win a BrailleBuzz today?
I know, very exciting. I would have been all over this when I was teaching. I am ready. It did take a little bit of work. I was fast and furiously typing in names because it did require me to type in the names. So that being said, if I misspelled your name, please bear with me. I was doing it very quickly. There are over 50 people here today. So, and also a couple caveats, because we are grant funded program and we are funded through the Florida Department of Education. I know we do have some people here from out of state. Unfortunately, if you win the raffle, I'm going to have to do it again because it does have to be somebody from the state of Florida for us to provide the equipment to. Sorry about that. Also, you have to be present to win. So if your name comes up, please say that you are here in the chat box and hang out, and we will get information from you right after the session on how we can get that to you. We will be shipping it to you. So I put everybody's name into a website. It's called random.org. It would be fun to use when you're teaching virtually with students because you can put anything in this. I put in everybody's names, so it's going to randomize it and pick one winner. You could put spelling words, you could put math, anything you can type into it. I do not know how accessible it is, but Andrea might know the answer to that. But that being said, everybody's name is in. I'm going to hit the button and randomize it and let you know that Natasha Skinner, are you here? Natasha, is Natasha here? Are you from Florida?
Natasha is definitely from Florida. Is she here?
Is she here? She has to be here to win. Give her a minute to.
Participants. I can search. Natasha is not here.
I don't see her in the participant list.
So I did do this a little while ago, so she might have been here and then had to leave. Sorry, Natasha, but I am going to go back and do it again. And we're going to try again. Mia Burton.
Oh.
I know Mia is from Florida. Mia Burton, are you here? Yay, Mia's here. Yay. Congratulations, Mia. Hang out for just a little while and we'll get your mailing information where you'd like us to send that to you. But you have won your very own BrailleBuzz.
Woo, woo. Super. Thank you. Thank you all for your time and attention to Buzz About Braille with Sherry and I. And
All
we'll
right.
move the slide. Oh, that's us.
So what, oh, so you had your next slide there. Okay. All right. So yeah, thank you for an awesome presentation, ladies. I think you gave our attendees a lot of ideas of how to integrate technology. Because we have to remember, I know toddlers who have no visual impairments who use iPads. They know how to use a tablet. So our students need to be getting on those devices and that technology too, so they're able to keep up with their peers who are in a very digital environment these days. So thank you again for a wonderful presentation. And so if you all could please take a few minutes of your time to complete this evaluation for the session. It's 4 very short questions from the Florida Department of Education. You can access the form using this QR code or the bit.ly FIMC-eval, and that link is always on at the top of our events page on our website. So if you could do that for us, we greatly appreciate it. That helps us get our funding so we can provide these services for you. And we'll give you a few seconds to maybe get that form loaded so you can access it.
I'm sorry, I'm not doing a very good job of turning the slides now.
All right, I think we're ready for the next one. So the closing code, let me double check my form here, is gestures. Closing code is gestures. So GESTURES.
Yeah.
And the opening code was, too many of these things out there, that was modes. So you're going to, if you're looking for in-service or ACB or AP credit, you're going to go to this QR code or the bit.ly FIMC-CEUs, or that link is also always at the top of our events page. Fill that form out, make sure you put in those opening and closing codes, and a certificate for 1.5 credits will be emailed to you. We're doing different certificates for every single session because we're not sure what all everyone is attending. So that's how you can get those points. And I think that is it. And look at that, we finished pretty much on time. So we're going to be taking a break, a 30-minute break. And if you want to come back and join us at this same link at 11 o'clock, Andrea Wallace will be presenting on refreshable Braille devices, what to choose. So if you want to learn more about those and all the options out there, including some new options, some futuristic things that might be coming someday, definitely make sure you join that. And our debriefing room will be at 12:30. So if you have more detailed questions you want to ask of Sherry or Andrea or any of us people here at FIMC, will be on that meeting. And that's a separate link. And then at 1:30 today, we're going to have our Lego Braille brick session. So that is for people in Florida who have students registered with us at FIMC who are interested in ordering those Lego Braille bricks. You want to be sure to attend that session to learn about how you request those Braille Lego kits. So go ahead and take a break, and we'll hopefully see you back in 30 minutes.
Bye, thank you.
Us.
Air high five,
Yeah.
Sherry. Yeah.
Great job, teamwork.
Good job.
Yay.